Welcome back. It's week number 2 of stage 3. Got some exciting matchups. There was a bit of news. Probably the most serious and crazy thing out of Overwatch League yet. I'm sure if you follow Overwatch League at all or are subscribed to any YouTube channels that cover Overwatch, you've probably seen this already. Dreamcasper of the Boston Uprising. They're incredibly good. Flex DPS player was accused by multiple people of sexual misconduct with underage girls, one of them being 14, another being 16, and just a whole bunch of nasty stuff. He has been cut. At first he got suspended. He got suspended indefinitely by his team and the league. And then a little bit more evidence came out, and they said that's enough. We already have all we need to know. And the Boston Uprising cut him. So he's no longer in the league. He could be facing jail time. He's 21 years old, so that's could be classified as pedophilia. So that was crazy. Was not expecting that at all. Makes me sad because he was such a good player, but he threw it all away by being a complete idiot and sicko. So yeah, that's wow. That is some. I did not expect that or anything like that. So hopefully it doesn't have too much of an impact on the league or esports as a whole. You never want to see somebody in your profession doing things like this. So yeah, oh, man, that's about all I'm going to say about that. Just a terrible thing that happened. No excuses for Dreamcasper. Got exactly what he deserved. Alright. That's pretty much all the news, though. I mean, other than that, acquisitions are over. Like I said, they were over since last week. So no one's picking up anybody else. So we'll see. We'll see how the Boston situation shakes out now that they only have 2 DPS players now. So, all right, getting into it. Predictions. Match number 1 later today. We got Shanghai 0-22, still looking for that first win. Playing against the Gladiators, 11-11, right at the 500 mark. They're a couple games behind all the playoff teams. They're going to be playing on Temple of Anubis, Blizzard World, Nepal, and then Route 66. I mean, this is a must-win for the Gladiators. They're trying to claw back into that playoff race. They're in 8th place right now, but I think there are definitely some opportunities for them to climb, especially with teams like the Outlaws and the Valiant being inconsistent, Uprising losing their best player, Philadelphia being a bit inconsistent as a whole. There are opportunities for them to move up, but they got to start taking care of business, especially because they have a very tough matchup, their second game this week, so they cannot afford to lose this one. I don't think they will. I think they'll come out strong and they will sweep this one. The Gladiators have this thing where they win the first 3 maps and they don't really try in the last one and they lose it, which has been extremely frustrating because that hurts their map differential. So I think that this time they're going to come out, they're going to batten down the hatches, they're going to take all 4, and they're going to really boost their map differential, because their overall map differential is not in great shape. They need to get a couple 4-0s here. But yeah, I think Shanghai will continue to improve, but their coordination is not great right now. They're still not close to like meshing as a team. Maybe by the end of stage 3, we'll start seeing them be a lot more competitive because they'll have each other's play styles down a bit more, and they'll be able to communicate better because they have a lot of languages going on right now. So language barriers for sure. This matchup, the one interesting thing about this one, I really want to see if Hydration's going to be playing at all. Week 1, he did not play at all. We saw Silk Thread, our new acquisition. He was in there for a couple maps, and then for the majority of them, it was the running like the Sure 4 and the Asher. And I think that's because Tracer Widow is so important right now. And heroes like Genji and Pharah aren't as important, so that's why we haven't really seen Hydration. But yeah, we'll see. Nepal is a map that Hydration always played on, so we'll see if he comes back for that one. Alright, so Gladiators 4-0. Moving on to the next match. Super excited for this one. We got San Fran Shock visiting LA Valiant. So Shock, they're at 7-15 right now. They're kind of in like they're in big trouble playoff wise. They really need like a win streak to get themselves back into it. You've seen their acquisitions. They seem to be much improved. However, they still did get 4-0 by the Dynasty last week. And you're like, oh, the Valiant destroyed the Dynasty. The Dynasty destroyed the Shock. This should be an easy one, Valiant. Well, Dynasty played their I don't want to insult them too much, but they're not nearly as good lineup when they played the Valiant. They played their B team, and they got crushed for it. Well, they played like half their B team. They had their new support in, they had their other backup support in, and they had one of their backup diva in, and that it was terrible. It did not work out well for them at all. So we shall see what they do in the future, which I'll actually talk about for the next match. But for this one, a lot of people are going to have the Valiant just because they won both of their matchups 4-0 last week. But I don't think they've really been tested yet. Beating Seoul with half of their people out and beating the Dragons in their first match together, or their second match together, I'm sorry, that doesn't impress me that much. I will say the Valiant did look very good, especially for having two players in. Yeah, because had Costa in, that was his first game with the team, and they had Space, who just turned 18, who was his first game with the team, and they looked good. They really did. I will give them credit. But I like the Shock in this matchup. They're on Volskaya, Blizzard World, Ilios, and then Route 66. Both of these teams have looked pretty shaky on 2CP. I think the Shock will take game 1 though, and then the Valiant will take 2. The Shock will take 3, and then the Shock will close it out barely on game 4. I think these maps are pretty good for their Sombra Tracer needs, and I don't think the Valiant will be able to stop them. The combination of Sinatra and Dante will be very effective in this matchup, I think, and it'll be very close. I could see this one going to a game 5, but I'm going with the Shock here. I think that they're a little bit of a stronger team right now. Third matchup of today. Dallas Fuel, Seoul Dynasty, the rematch. So these teams had a very, very good match in week number 1 of stage 1, but a lot has changed since then. The Dynasty they've been good. I mean, they're third in the standings right now, but they've been inconsistent. They've lost some matches when it really matters to miss some stage playoffs. But overall, I mean, they can't be too mad about their season. They're still in third place. They're in good position for the overall playoffs. The Dallas Fuel, since that time, their season has gone downhill. They're sitting at 6-16 right now, so they're in 10th place. Their playoff hopes are over. I'm at the point right now where it's like Fuel, they're done. They just need to focus on like getting what roster they think is really going to be best. Maybe making a run for it in stage 4, making a run for those stage playoffs. But then like getting ready for next year, getting a group together that's going to perform a lot better than the squad did this year. That's their goal right now. They're done. The Florida Mayhem, they're sitting at 4-20. They're done. And then, or 4-18. Sorry, 4-18. And the Shanghai Dragons 0-22. They're done. They could win their next 18 matches and they'd still be under 500. So those 3 teams, they're done for the playoffs this year. They're not making the overall playoffs. But obviously, there's still a lot to play for them. I think the Shock are getting kind of close to the point where they're going to be out of it. But if they go on a big win streak, maybe they could sneak into like a 6. If one of the Western teams That's towards the top, like that's in like the 4 to 7 range right now. If one of them has a pretty big losing streak, then you could see the shock pop back in. But anyway, they're playing on Volskaya, Temple of Anubis, Volskaya, New Mani, Nepal, and then Route 66. No Temple of Anubis. So if the Dynasty put out their main roster right away, they'll be fine. It'll be 4-0. If they put together some hodgepodge of like some of their starters and some not, I think this one could be very close. I honestly think the Dynasty might come out with a different roster for the first couple matches, and then they might switch, like midway at the halftime. Maybe they'll switch. I do think they'll win though, even if they put out the like the B team. I don't think they'll play the entire time this time, and I think that the Dynasty will take this one 3-1. So, moving on to Thursday. We got Boston. Their first match without Dreamcasper, and they have to play the best team in the league, the New York Excelsior. So Boston, they got themselves up to 5th, I believe, in the standings. Or is it, actually, I think they're 4th. They got themselves all the way up to 4th in the overall standings. They're looking great. 2 match wins to start off stage number 3, but this is where I think it all comes crashing down for them. They're on Volskaya, Numbani, Ilios, and then Junkertown. If Dreamcasper is in, this would be a very interesting matchup. He's no longer on the team, though. You can't talk about him anymore. They have Mistakes, who is their other DPS player, who's going to be playing full-time now. Unless they decide to switch one of their 5 DPSs to, or 5 supports to DPS, and then they try to have one of them play. But at least for the near future, Mistakes will be playing full-time. I mean, him and Striker are the only DPS left. Striker is pretty much a Tracer one-trick. He can play a little bit of Widow. He played a little bit of Junkrat last match and was pretty good. But it's pretty much a Tracer. He's their Tracer player. So Mistakes is going to be flexing to a bunch of other stuff. He was a Tracer player before, so he's been kind of adjusting to the new role. We saw him play a little bit in the previous stages. Pretty much played Sombra mostly. So Sombra Tracer is strong right now, as we've seen from the shock. So maybe they can run a comp like that and have some success. But at least right away, I think they're going to get stomped by the Excelsior. I think it's going to be 4-0. I think at least the first few weeks, not having Casper in there is going to hurt them a lot. And I think they could drop multiple matches in a row and maybe fall a bit in the standings. But maybe when they get all of their when they kind of get it down with Mistakes a little more, when they start to synergize off each other, maybe things will go better then. They do still have some very good players. Gamsu is a great main tank. Striker is a very proficient Tracer. Neko is a very underrated Zenyatta. Kelix he's fine on main healer. Note has done a very good job on D.Va. So this is still a good team. But I think that their first couple matchups, especially this one because they're playing against the Excelsior, are not going to go well for them. So yep, 4-0, favor of New York. Next matchup, it is the London Spitfire against the Florida Mayhem. So Spitfire, they need to 4-0 this one. They're way down on map differential right now. I think they're -5. They're 0-2 in the stage. They cannot afford to lose pretty much any matchups going forward. Well, they can pretty much afford to lose one more game this stage. Maybe a 6-4 team could make it, but probably not. You're going to be looking at 7-3 if you really want to make it, and they're 0-2 right now. So Mayhem are also 0-2 on the stage. But I think the Spitfire are really going to come out swinging. They're going to 4-0 this one just because they need to. They really need to get back on track. Ever since they lost in the semifinals last stage to the Fusion, they've just been kind of falling apart. So I see a bounce back from them. If they don't, they could find themselves falling to 3rd place in the overall standings pretty soon. And they could find themselves looking, watching. They could be watching the Stage 3 playoffs. They're in a bit of danger. And capping off Thursday, we got the Philadelphia Fusion against the Houston Outlaws. This should be a great matchup. We got the Outlaws coming in at 13-9, and then we got the Philadelphia Fusion coming in at 14-8. So this is a big matchup for both teams. Very important for each of them to get a win here. Obviously, they both can't win. They're playing on Volskaya, Numbani, Ilios, and then Junkertown. So I like Fusion more as a team right now. I think they're better. The Outlaws, they've just been inconsistent. I mean, they played well. They took down the Spitfire. That was great. Then they got the Bigot. That was the worst beatdown I've seen in Overwatch League. Boston Uprising versus Outlaws last week. I thought that was going to be a really close matchup, back and forth. I think I predicted Boston to pull it out 3-2. Boston beat them 4-0, and none of the map. Well, Junkertown, the last map, was kind of close. The other three were just absolute blowouts. It was brutal. I was stunned watching it. I think all of the stop sending me party invites. The Outlaws just didn't look very good at all last week, and they looked very good against the Spitfire. So to come out so flat against the Uprising and get embarrassed like that, I don't know. I think that they will play. I think they'll play well in this matchup. I think the map pool actually favors them quite a bit. Volskaya has been kind of a weak map for Fusion, so I think that they have a big opportunity to take game one. If the Fusion take game one, they will take the set. But if Outlaws take that one, I think Outlaws will take Junkertown, game 4, but Philly will probably take 2 and 3. So I see this one going to game 5. I think the Fusion will take it. The tiebreaker map is Oasis, which could favor the Outlaws a little bit, but I'm going to go with the Fusion here. They just look a bit stronger. They look more consistent. I like the way that their DPS are playing right now. I think Carpe will get the better of Lynx here right now, even though they're both phenomenal at Widow. We'll see, but the Philadelphia Fusion, their tracer advantage gives them an edge, and I think their support line does a little bit of a better job too. So we'll see. This should be a very close matchup, but I'm going with Philadelphia Fusion 3-2. Alright, those are the first 2 days of week number 2 of Overwatch League, Stage 3. Some really good matchups. I think the Shock Valiant one might be my favorite one of these 2 days. I think Fusion Outlaws should also be great, though. And I mean, maybe the Uprising will have a shot. Maybe they'll come in swinging. Maybe Mistakes will blend right back in, and they'll have a close matchup with the Excelsior. But we shall see. There's some really good matchups going on Friday and Saturday. Can't wait to get to those. But to get to those, you'll have to wait and watch the video on Friday. Later.